Okay, so we'll be starting with a heart opener. We're pretty much going to use that as our way to center, partly because you're probably sitting a lot or doing things like that at home, and this is a way to counteract the hunch at forward head position and just give you a space to start to open up to your chest. And so you can have a blanket that is long, something that you can make into a long roll like this, or you have even two short things you can put end to end. Then you can do a heart opener by supporting your whole spine. With your head here, the arms out to the sides. But you can also have a blanket across the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. So again, it can be any size that's appropriate for you. For this one, you want it to hit right across the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, so your arms will be above it. And your head should be able to come onto the floor comfortably. You can either make this smaller, or you can add a little support under your head. But this is a restorative pose. It's a passive heart opener, so you don't want to feel uncomfortable. You want to be able to lie on the blanket in a way that lets you start to relax into the posture. So I've been using a book called Keep Going, The Art of Perseverance as kind of my theme for the classes each week. And it's a book written by George M. Marshall III. He's a Lakota Indian. And it's a story about, it's actually a story about himself. When he was a young man, he lost his father to cancer, and it devastated him for a while and caused him to start to question life in general on a lot of different levels. As big events are apt to do for many of us, like the current event that we're all living through. So he goes to see his grandfather, Old Hawk, and talk to him about what's going on for him. So each week I'll be reading a little bit or telling a little bit of the story about their conversation. So this week, they're sitting under the cottonwood tree, and they were watching a hawk fly in the sky. And Jeremy, who's the young man, said, "It must be good to know where you're going, at least most of the time." "Well," said Old Hawk, "you and that hawk have much in common." "What is guiding that hawk?" the old man asked. "Is he riding the wind where it takes him, or is he following his own will?" "Well," said Jeremy, "perhaps the wind is blowing in the direction the hawk wants to go." Old Hawk smiled. "Life is like the wind. You did not ask to be born, but you are here. If the hawk doesn't care where the wind takes him, he is allowing the wind to choose for him," pointed out Old Hawk. "But if, as you said, the wind is blowing where the hawk wants to go, then he is making the choice. And we are all subject to our own choices. That's what we have in common with that hawk. But we don't have total control in spite of that," Jeremy pointed out. "Indeed, in this journey full of choices, you began your life as a consequence of a choice made by your parents. Where and when you came into this world cannot be changed. The beginning of your journey is carved into the unyielding stone of the past. So you should waste no time and effort yearning that it might have been other than what it is. What you are comes from the blood of those who set you on this journey. That likewise is unchangeable. What you see in the reflecting pool of truth is who you are. You cannot change that, so it is not wise to curse it. The wiser choice is to embrace it and make it your strength. Who you will be at the end of your journey is taking form as you travel. And the journey is always perfect, no matter what roads you choose. And then he tells a story that his wife used to tell. And it was about two women who were no longer young, talking about the lives that they had lived. The first woman had married young, raised several children. She and her husband worked hard to have a home, provide for their family, and they spent their lives in a valley along a river. Neither of them traveled very far. As time went on, their children grew, eventually had their own children. And then after years of hard work had taken their toll on her husband, he passed away. The second woman, on the other hand, had married a man who was an important official. His duties took him away from home to far and distant places, and she frequently traveled with her husband and saw many different lands and people of different backgrounds. And her house was filled with treasures from all those faraway places, but they never had children. Her husband didn't want any. He was concerned they would hamper his career, and she went along with that. But as they talked, they each began questioning in their own mind, why couldn't things have been different? And they were troubled because they might have had a different life, but did not make those choices. So they couldn't find answers through their thinking about it, and they went to an old woman who was known for her wisdom. After she listened to the women talking about their lives, she gave them a blanket, a plain gray blanket, needles and spools of many different colored threads. And she said, go decorate your blankets, each of you. And when you've finished, bring them back to me and we'll talk again. So they did that. Many days, maybe it was weeks later, they returned and they hung the blankets up in the wall and they looked at them. And the old woman, the wise woman, said, well, it's just as I thought. Although all I said was to decorate your blankets, each of you has told the story of your life on them. And indeed they had. And once they looked at the story of each of their own lives that they had designed on the blanket, the wise woman said to them, you came to me and asked if your lives should have been different. And I believe you've answered your own question, each of you. Both of your lives could have been different if you had made other choices. If you had turned left instead of right, said no instead of yes. However, if the lives you lived were unacceptable and you were truly unhappy with them, you would have told the story of your lives as you wished they could have been. Yet you told them as they were. You could have changed your stories, but you did not. Now you can think about the choices you make from this moment on. So after that story, Jeremy asked his grandfather, do you ever wish your life had been different? Old Hawk chuckled. We all do sometimes. We think it ought to have been different, usually after we've been shamed or embarrassed or when we've failed somehow. There are places in the world I wish I could have seen, places you've seen, Jeremy, and described to me. And yet at this moment, I am thankful for who and what I am and for how my life has turned out. I have known disappointments for sure, but I have also won the love and loyalty of a fine woman, your grandmother. She was the wind in my life. We were fortunate to have two fine children, your mother and your uncle. And now you and all our grandchildren are in our lives. And I have been blessed to see my children turn into good, kind, strong, and compassionate people. And now I get to watch you as well. I might have wished that things could be different, but I would not change anything in my life, neither the good nor the bad. Now take a nice deep breath in and then release with your exhalation. Another deep breath and then release. And now as you're ready, go ahead and bend your knees. You're going to roll off your blanket to the side, and we'll come on up to hands and knees here in a moment and do a warm-up. But go ahead and move your blanket to the side, except if you think you might want extra padding under your knees. Then you might unroll it a little bit and have it handy. So I'm going to show you a sequence we're going to use to warm up here. And you can, if you can't see me really well from where you are on your mat, feel free to move up closer to the camera to watch, and then you can just move back onto your mat once we get started. And I will be talking you through the sequence. I just want you to see it once before we begin. So we'll start in table pose. And then with our first inhale, we'll lift the tail, extend the spine, and lift the head up. Then exhale, tail down, round the back, and shift your hips back towards your heels. On your next inhale, take your hands in close, use your core to come up to your knees, open your arms, a little bit of a back bend here, chest lifted. Exhale as you float your hands to the floor. So I'm shifting my hips back slightly and using my core to control the descent here. Once I touch the floor, I slide my hands forward and inhale to downward facing dog. And exhale, I'm still holding downward dog. On my next inhale, I shift forward to plank pose. And then exhale, knees to the floor, and back in table, the starting position. So we'll be repeating that a number of times to start warming up all kinds of stuff. So find your way onto your hands and knees. Put a blanket under your knees if your knees will be happier knees with extra padding. And then before we start moving, what I want you to do is just connect to your breath and cultivate a comfortable breath, but as long and even as you can get it. So a nice long, even breath. And then with your next inhalation, start lifting your tail up, extend your spine, head up. Exhale and round your back, tail down, arch, head down, and shift your hips back to your heels. So you're doing two movements, one flowing right into the next on your exhalation. When you inhale next, slide your hands in towards you, come up onto your knees. So you're going to lift your hips off the heels, reach up, open the arms, and lift your chest into a little bit of a kneeling back bend here. And then as you exhale, float your hands to the floor. So again, engaging your core. Once they touch the floor, slide them all the way up to the front of your sticky mat. Turn your toes under and inhaling your hips up to downward dog. So you'll have a full breath in downward dog. Inhaling as you go into it, then exhaling as you hold it. Your next inhalation will be to plank pose. And then exhale, knees to the floor, and you're back in table. Inhale, tail up, extend your spine, head up. Exhale, round your back, shift your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, sliding your hands back, lift up onto your knees, and open up, lift your chest. Kneeling back bend, exhale as you bow forward, floating your hands to the floor, slide them forward. Inhale, downward facing dog. And then exhaling as you hold dog. So having a nice long breath here is going to make you have more space and time in each shape. On your last inhale, you'll shift forward to plank, and then exhaling back to table, knees to the floor. Inhale, tail up, extend your spine, head up. Exhale, round your back, hips to your heels. Slide your hands back and inhale up to kneeling back, then engage your core, open your heart. And then exhale as you float back to the floor, slide your hands forward. Inhale to dog, holding with your exhale as well. And then last inhale to plank. And exhaling, knees to the floor. Okay, so you're going to go on your own now for 3 more rounds here. But if you're starting to panic, let me just say, breathe, move. If you don't do exactly what I was describing before, I don't care. Breathe and move, going at your own pace. Whatever part of what we were doing the last 3 rounds, just do it. Breathe and move. Now, once you've finished your last round, then let's come on up to standing. So some of you are still finishing. You know, don't rush if you're not done. So you're going to come to the front of your sticky mat and start in mountain pose. So front of the sticky mat, I'm going to say will be one of the narrow ends of your mat. So you can choose which direction you want to face. And then just give yourself a few moments to find mountain pose. So start with your feet on the floor, a little bit separated, and shift a little forward and back. So as you shift back, putting more weight in your heels, shift back to the point where your toes want to kind of fly up in the air. So that's like extreme. Then go in the other direction, shifting forward until your heels want to come off the floor. And then find the place where your heels are weighted, but your whole foot from heel to toe pads is on the floor, supporting you. And then moving your awareness from your feet, your foundation, all the way up to the crown of the head. Align your body so that you are consciously standing. And now with your next inhale, go ahead and lift both arms straight up in the air. And grab a hold of your right wrist. Inhale, stretch up a little bit taller, and then exhale, side bending to the left. So drawing yourself to the left. Keep pressing down through both feet and lifting up out of the waist. So instead of thinking of collapsing that left waist, stretch up through the left waist. And then back to center. Switch hands. So now grabbing the opposite wrist, lift up a little taller with an inhale, and then exhale, side bend in the other direction. Press down through both legs and feet. Lift up and out of the hips. So your big stretch is on your left side, but you should still have space on the right side of your waist as well. Okay, and then release on that side. Good. Bring your hands to your hips. Lift your chest. And then exhale, hinging at your hip joint, coming all the way over to standing forward bend. So just notice how that forward bend feels in your body here. If you're feeling a little bit stiff in the backs of the legs or your low back, take your feet a little wider apart and let your knees bend more. So get more of a release from your hip joint. Yeah, just letting the torso kind of flow like a waterfall to the earth. Now after your next exhale, inhale to half forward fold. So slide your hands to the tops of your shins, get long, get your torso parallel to the floor. Maybe take a full breath or a breath and a half here, and then release with an exhale back to forward bend. Good. Now do that 2 more times, just at your own pace. So holding the half forward fold for maybe a breath or a breath and a half, and then releasing back to forward bend. Okay, once you've finished that last forward fold, then go ahead and step your right leg back to lunge. So take a nice big step back, pivot on your back foot, and turn it sideways. So your back foot is parallel to the back of your sticky mat. Okay, and then once you've got your foot there, you can come up to standing. Okay, make sure that your front heel and back heel are lined up. So we're going to move into triangle pose next. So back foot parallel, front heel, back heel are lined up. Legs are straight, but you want to engage your muscles here. So don't just lock your knees. Your torso, the front of your torso is facing in the same direction as your back foot is facing. So you're facing sideways for triangle pose. Okay, good. But your front foot is straight ahead. When you're ready, inhale, your arms up, your spine lifts, exhale, and start to stretch out, making the sides of your waist as long as you can. And then when you can't hinge anymore over that front leg, bring the hand down to your lower leg. Also, if you have a block, you can also put your hand on a block. So breathe in and out in a nice, smooth, and fluid way. Now take a moment and turn your head, look down at your front foot, and just notice where your torso is in relation to your front leg and foot. If it is not directly over it, bring your torso up a little higher. So just move that lower hand maybe an inch or so up, and then see if you can move your whole torso so it's more directly lined up over your front leg, just as close as you can manage here. Nice. Go ahead and enjoy another breath or two here. And then inhale, lifting up out of the pose. And we'll come into lateral angle pose, side angle pose. So you're going to bend the front knee. And you can either place your forearm on the top of the thigh, or you can place your arm right next to the shin on either the inside or the outside of your front shin, and you can put it on a block. So I personally find that if I can lift up a little higher, it just feels easier for me to open up through my chest. So you don't want to feel all squished down. You want to make space for yourself to open up through the chest. And your top arm is stretching out over your ear. But if that doesn't work for your shoulder, remember you can always have your arm either straight up from the shoulder or hand on your hip. The most important thing is you're trying to open up through the chest here. Keep your breath smooth and even. Now bring both hands down to the floor. Lift the back foot heel, so you're going to move through a lunge here and then step back to plank pose. Take a full breath in your plank pose. And then to lower down, go ahead and bend the pointy parts of the elbows straight back. You can put your knees down to half plank at any time. That's it. Pointy parts of the elbows straight back. Try to lower down nice and slow. Okay, so we're going to come into a variation of locust pose, concentrating on our glute muscles, the buttock muscles. So take your arms, you're going to fold them, or like stack your forearms in front or stack your hands in front so that you can place your forehead on top and be able to breathe. And just have your arms far enough forward so that your neck feels long and there's no feeling of strain in your shoulders or around your neck. Your legs are just extended out straight. So to do the leg lifts here, what I want you to do first is to engage your right buttock muscles. So before you lift your leg up, just firm that right butt and then let that muscle, or those three muscles actually, lift your right leg up off the floor. So inhale it up, hold with your exhale, inhale again, and then exhale the leg to the floor. So 2 full breaths. And when you let the leg down, then notice the butt will relax. Now take your attention to the left side. Engage the left buttock first, then let it lift the leg up. So inhale up, hold with your exhale, hold with your inhale, and then exhale back down again. All right, so we're going to do that again. This time you're going to hold for 3 breaths. So engage the buttock muscle first. Inhale up, hold with the exhale. Inhale again, hold with the exhale. 3rd inhale, and then you exhale the leg back to the floor. And then the left side. Engage the buttock first. Hold for 3 breaths. Okay, when you finish that one, you'll do 1 more time, and this time you're going to be holding for 4 breaths total. Try to keep your upper body as relaxed as possible. So as you're holding this one, take your awareness up to the shoulders, the upper arms, the neck, and try to make those areas as relaxed as possible as you're working your lower body and probably your low and mid back to some degree as well. When you finish that side, finish up with your second side, the last one. Okay, and then from here, we're going to move into upper body work with locust pose. So go ahead and slide your hands back so your hands are on the floor. So you're going to have your arms at 90 degrees, palms of the hands, the whole hand is on the floor, all your arm is off the floor. Okay, and I want you to inhale your chest off the floor. Your head will come along for the ride. Okay, now your lower body's going to stay on the floor, but try to take your elbows to the ceiling. So your hands are going to come off the floor barely, but you're really pressing those elbows up, engaging your upper back muscles. Try to keep your neck long. Your face is facing the floor. Keep breathing. Take 1 more full breath in, and then exhale and release down. We're going to repeat that 2 more times. So I didn't tell you a number of breaths to do that time. I was just kind of talking you through the thing. But for the 2nd and 3rd time, I'd like you to hold for 3 to 5 breaths. So you can kind of choose what is the best amount of time to hold. But neck long, face relaxed, legs on the floor. Hands will be just barely off the floor, and your mid to upper back should be working really hard. You should feel those muscles really engaging there. You can rest briefly before you do your last one. Okay, and once you've finished your last one, come down and take a brief rest. And then we'll be pressing up from the floor through half plank, plank, and then to downward facing dog. So whenever you're ready, make your way through plank, half plank, and back to downward dog. Now from here, please use your inhale to step your right foot back, right foot forward. So this should be the other side. If for some reason it isn't, do your other side. Okay, but last time I believe we stepped the right leg back, so right leg should be forward. All right, so triangle pose, second side. Pivot on the back foot, take it down to the floor, come up to standing. So make sure your feet are well aligned, heel to heel, back foot parallel to the back of the mat, front foot forward. And then your legs are straight for triangle pose, so just engage your thigh muscles so that they have support. When you're ready, inhale, lifting your spine up, your arms straight out from the shoulders, and then exhale as you start to hinge over your front leg. So stretch out and get really long. And once you've placed your hand either on the lower leg someplace or on a block, then make sure your legs are still strong, your feet are still rooting you down. Open up through the heart a little more if you can, so notice what your head is doing here. Make sure the head is back, your neck is free, no jutting out of the chin. And keep that strong action through both legs. So that's both to hold you steady, but it's also to work the muscles, work the bones. Now, when you're ready, you'll use your inhale and the power in your legs and core to lift up. Okay, you can drop your hands, your arms down for a moment, and we'll move into lateral angle or side angle pose. So if the actual position of your feet is the same, but you may want to adjust the distance between your feet. And then when you're ready to move into the pose, bend the front knee, place your right forearm on the top of the thigh, or your hand can go next to your right shin on a block. And you're going to be pressing the arm into the shin or the forearm down into the thigh and using that as leverage to open up through the heart. And your top arm again is sweeping over your your top ear, but you can also put it in other places if that's not a good place for your shoulder. So you're just paying attention and modifying things as you need to. Now with your next inhalation, go ahead and lift up out of the pose. And then turn your front foot in so your feet are parallel to each other. And we're going to come into a wide-legged forward bend. So you can face whichever way you want to face, but lengthwise on your mat. Feet are parallel. Go ahead and hinge from your hip joint into the forward bend. And then, so we've practiced this forward bend using some other ways to move in it to just make it a little more fun and to guide some sensation and stretch into other areas. So the common ones, in case you haven't done this with me before, would be side to side movement. So if you bent your right knee, you'd shift your torso and your arms a little bit to the right and press your left leg straight. And then you'd shift the other way. So that's going to get the inner thigh muscles a little bit more in addition to hamstrings. And then the other two ways to move, and you can just keep doing this if you want, I'm just going to tell you what they are, and then you can kind of do it at your own pace. But another way to move is to shift your hips back, but stretch your torso and your arms forward. So it's like your legs are in wide-legged forward bend, but your torso and your arms are kind of in a downward dog. And that just brings a nice stretch to the low back if you keep reaching back with your hips while your arms are reaching forward. And then another movement you can do is to shift your hips forward as your arms move forward. And that's going to bring more stretch into the backs of the legs and maybe into your lower legs, into the calf area. So just go ahead and take another minute or so to just move around. And you might think of some other ways to move around in this wide-legged forward bend that bring you into some other parts of your body. So just, you know, make it juicy. Make it feel good in your body. Experiment and explore. Now, when you're ready to, when you feel finished with this movement that you're doing here, you can go ahead and just inhale, come up with a long, strong back. But if you have a really wide stance, you may want to heel toe your feet a little closer together before you come up, your choice. And once you get all the way up, then you're going to bring your legs together. So we're going to work on some, I'm going to call them chair squats, except we're going to have an imaginary chair. You can actually use a chair to do some of this work, but I'm going to show you how we can do it without a chair now. And then I'll show you how you can use a chair, but since you may not all be able to run and grab a chair right now, I'm going to just, that'll be your homework assignment, to try chair squats on your own. But this is chair squat without the chair. So wide stance. And then you want to shift your hips way back. So I want to put my weight in my heels. When I do that, my toes will want to fly away from the floor, but don't let them. Keep them pressed down. So I'm going to counterbalance with my arms out in front. I want to keep my shins back, and I'm going to lower like I'm sitting into a chair. And then I'm coming up. So lower down, knees back. So what I want you to avoid is doing them like this, which puts a lot of pressure on your knee joints. So as much as you can, keep them back. Press those toes down. And you come down, and then you'll come up. Take the butt up, sit, and come up. You should feel right there. And so you can do 3 or 4, and then take a moment, and then maybe do another 3 or 4. You want to really feel those glute muscles working for you. Keep the intention of your chest lifting up to some degree. But mainly I want you to focus on moving your knees and your shins back so that you're really working the leg muscles, the glute muscles, and you're not putting too much pressure on the knee joint. Yeah, so press your toes down. As soon as, when you feel them lift up, the good news is you're getting the weight where you want it to be. But then you've got to press those babies back on the floor. Don't let them fly away from the floor because they will help you stay. Okay, looking good, looking good. So go ahead when you've had done a couple sets of those, you can take a forward bend, or you might just want to stand up and wiggle around or do a happy dance or something, and then you can just come a little closer to your camera. I'm going to get my chair out and show you how you can practice chair squats with an actual chair. And this is really a good way to work your core and make sure that the muscles that let you get into and out of chairs don't forget how to work, which can happen. Okay, so the secret here is you do not want to use momentum to leave your chair or your arms, and you don't want to plop back into the chair when you're sitting. So I'm going to just sit down here. I just plopped to get out of the chair without using momentum. Now, some people may not be able to, and you have to have a chair like this. If you have a really deep chair that seats angled back, that's not going to work for this. Something like this chair. So the first thing is that I want my feet flat on the floor. I want to scoot myself a little more towards the end of the chair here. And then I'm going to hinge forward. And the idea is like you're checking for monsters under your chair. So there are no monsters there. It's safe for me to get up. And then I want to leave the chair and then stand up. To come back into the chair, again, I'm going to hinge forward. I'm counterbalancing here, lowering. What if the chair went away? Well, so really control the descent until you know it's there. They usually don't move, but just in case. And then coming up again, I shift forward, check the monsters, get off the chair, and then I'm coming up using the leg strength. So try this after class. Okay, so the next thing we're going to work on here is Warrior 3, and then we're going to move from Warrior 3 to a revolved half moon pose. So again, we're working the butt muscles a lot today, and the legs. So Warrior 3, you can come to the front of your sticky mat. Okay, and then we'll start with the left leg as the balancing leg. So step your right foot back just a little ways, but put it on the floor, but just the toes and the ball of the foot. Make sure your hips are squared forward. Okay, yeah, like that, Deborah, good. Okay, and then you're going to hinge forward from your hip joint and take your arms back and out to the sides. So the palms will face the floor. Palms will face down. There you go. Now lift your shoulders up and firm your shoulder blades onto your back. So get the back muscles engaged, the arm muscles engaged. And now start to shift your weight onto your left leg. And then once you feel your left leg holding your weight, start to lift your right leg up. Now how high that leg goes up is not as important as just playing with your balance and keeping your back muscles engaged, your arm muscles engaged, and then your lifted leg is not turning out. So like Iris, drop your right hip a little bit, turn your leg so it's facing the floor. And whenever you're making adjustments with your leg in the air, make them very slowly. It's okay to put the foot back down on the floor, by the way. So if you can start with the foot facing the floor and then find your balance and then lift that leg up with it already squared to the floor, you're kind of ahead of the game. You can make midair corrections. They're just harder. Yeah. Okay, looking good, guys. And so remember, like this, the whole theme of this book, Keep Going, The Art of Perseverance. We're using our practice in order to practice perseverance, in order to practice continuing on in the face of difficulty and challenge. So even if things are not unfolding the way you would like them to unfold, can you keep going anywhere? Can you keep trying anyhow? Your effort counts. Okay, now, whenever you've had enough fun with that side, we've all done a couple of attempts, at least from the people I can see, so that's excellent. Now, you'll switch and try the other side. Before you actually do it, just mentally take a moment to go, okay, side may not be the same. It's okay. Okay, your right leg is now the balancing leg. You're going to step your left foot back a little bit. Hinge forward. Lift your shoulders and engage your back muscles. So before you lift that back leg up, you want to make sure that it's centered, okay? So that's one reason to have the ball, the foot, and the toes down, is that you want to feel that your foot is not turning out, that your leg is completely straight facing the floor. Make sure your arms are active. Don't let them get floppy, because if they get floppy, the pose gets floppy. So let your lifted leg, once you get it up, take it a little bit wider. So just for everybody, one of the common things in these one-legged balancing poses when the leg is behind us is the leg often drifts in the direction of your standing leg. So just kind of assume that it wants to do that. And once you have it in the air, just focus on taking it maybe just an inch wider, just a little bit, because that may help you find your balance more easily if you can keep that leg from drifting in the direction of your balancing leg. Okay, so Deborah, turn the whole lifted leg towards the floor instead of letting it turn out sideways. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, okay. That's it, yeah. So another way to get your lifted leg to face the floor is to think of, once you start lifting the leg, drop that hip a little bit. Don't let it lift up higher than your balancing leg hip, because once it starts lifting higher, basically you're going to start turning your leg out sideways at that point. Okay, so go ahead and take a forward bend. If you're not finished and you still need to do more, go ahead, but take a forward bend when you're done. And then for the revolved half moon pose, it builds on warrior 3 actually, which is why we did warrior 3 first. Ideally, you will have a block or something block-like that's in the neighborhood of like that tall-ish. You might stack a few books. If you have a chair nearby or a piece of furniture, a bench or something, that also might be able to help out. But I'm going to show you the pose first, because I think a lot of people are not familiar with revolved half moon pose. So I'm going to show it to you so you can come up and look, and then I'll watch you do it. So my left leg is going to be my balancing leg. So I'm going to put the block under my right arm. Wait, is that right? Yes. Okay. So, but not here. It's going to go up here. So I'm going to start out like I did with warrior 3, with the one foot back a little bit. And then I'm going to hinge forward and take my arm straight down from my shoulder. So I'm adjusting so that my hand is on the block and it's straight down from my shoulder. And then I'm going to lift this leg up. So really using these glutes, both the standing leg and the other leg. This leg is super strong. And then I'm going to start to twist towards my balancing leg. Okay, I'm going to lift the top shoulder back. And I'm keeping my hands here so that I can monitor what's happening in my hips. Because in this pose, this leg will want to drop. Whoops. My whole body wants to drop there. So I'm trying to keep this leg lifted as I twist here. And I'm just making my top shoulder go away. So to see it from the other side, this leg comes up. I'm feeling I want this to be even here, sacrum is here. press down on the block, lift up on the shoulder. As I lift the shoulder up and back, I'm lifting this leg up. So it is a lot of work. So feel free to give it a try. Put the legs down, try it again. Okay, have fun. Yeah, so really work those glutes. Don't let the block get too far in front of you so that you lean. You want to really have it balanced evenly between your legs. There you go. Yeah, so now get that leg up there. Good. Now you're going to twist away from your arm. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so there's a lot of engagement here. It's a powerful, powerful pose. Okay, so you want to, if you're putting your left arm on the block, your left leg should be lifting up. Yeah, so lift your left leg up, not your right leg. That's it. And now you're going to twist towards your right leg. Yeah, so the good news about this pose is that you get to use a leg and an arm. So you have two things that are connecting you to the earth. But you've got to really, really work the glutes of both buttocks. And then work the twist. Don't worry about the arm in the air until you really can get your top shoulder more over your bottom shoulder. Okay, whenever you've had enough fun on the first side, you can go ahead and do a counter pose if you want, and then you're going to move on to your second side. I'm wondering if you have the block too far in front. I can't really tell. Can you go sideways for me for a second? Yeah, like that. So, yeah, like that. Yeah. Now put the block down. Okay. So your left leg will be your balancing leg. Okay. Put your left arm on your sacrum. That's it. Good. Now lift your right leg up. Good. Push down into the block, into the leg. Yeah, because you want to lift your torso more parallel. Okay, good. Good. Let yourself get steady there. And then very slowly start to lift your left shoulder up. Yeah, so was that, yeah, good, good, good. So you want to use the leg and the arm that's on the block to press into the floor, because that's what's going to help leverage the twist. But the other thing is that the glutes have to be really strong. So this is a great pose for getting a nice butt, everyone. Okay, now once you've finished your second side, and I'm not rushing you if you're not done, but once you have, you're going to come onto the floor and onto your back. And we're going to move into the number 4 hip stretch, which after all that glute work is hopefully going to feel good. And you may want to just, like, once you come onto your back, stretch out, arms overhead, stretch out your legs, and just take a moment. It's almost Shavasana time. We're going to do a few things to cool down first, but you've worked real hard. So just appreciate that, the effort you've made. And then when you're ready, bend both knees with your feet, the soles of your feet on the floor, and then cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Okay, if you feel a big stretch just crossing your leg over, you're in your pose. If you can go deeper, if you want to go deeper, you're going to bring your thighs towards your chest. You can interlace your hands around your left thigh if you wish, or you can use a belt, or you don't have to use your hands. Also remember that you can rock in and out of the pose. So if this is a big sensation and it's hard to stay here, then let yourself deepen it and then release it a little bit. So modify the intensity. Now go ahead and put your left foot back on the floor, but don't uncross your legs. Okay, just put it back on the floor. And we're going to add a twist and another little opener here for the hip area. So you're going to drop both your knees to the left. So the bottom of your left foot will be on the floor, and the side of your right leg will be on the floor. Okay, so keep your very upper back on the floor here. So you're going to have the whole side of your left leg on the floor and the bottom of your right foot on the floor. So your right leg is up, crossed over, but the foot is on the floor. And then you're going to use your left hand to do two movements. So one movement is to push your right thigh away from you, and that will open up the front of the hip joint. And so how much you want to push is kind of up to you. And then the other movement is to take your right knee towards the floor or towards your chest. So you can kind of make a judgment about how you want to move that right knee, either towards the floor. You can use your left hand to add a little traction, but you can also take the right foot off the floor and draw the knee closer into your chest. So there are a few different ways you can play around with the stretch here. And then go ahead and pick everything up off the floor, uncross the leg, both feet on the floor. You may want a knees to chest or windshield wiper knees. We'll do the second side, starting with the number 4 hip stretch. So whenever you are ready, you'll place both feet back on the floor, and this time cross your left leg over your right thigh, flex the foot, okay, and then start drawing the knees towards the chest if that's appropriate. Clasping your hands around the right thigh, again, if that's appropriate. Take some breaths here. Make sure that you're relaxing your shoulders, your head is on the floor. Rock in and out if that's a good idea for your body. And then you'll unclasp your hands. Go ahead and put that right foot on the floor again, and now just twist your hips over to the left. So now your left foot is on the floor, the side of your right leg is on the floor, and then you're going to play around with those movements so you can push that left thigh away from you, opening up the front of the hip flexor there. And then the other movements are to draw the thigh in either towards your chest. If you do that, your foot may come off the floor. Or you can draw that leg towards the floor, in which case the foot may still remain on the floor. But just play around with those movements, exploring that hip joint. And then when you're ready, you'll uncross, come back to center, and then again finish up with windshield wiper knees, knees to chest, full body stretch, or any other movement that seems like a good idea for your body. And then get ready to relax. Get ready for Shavasana. So just gather any kind of props, clothing that will allow you to be as comfortable as possible, feel warm, feel supported. And then allow yourself to stretch out. And once you're on your back and stretched out, take 1 or 2 deep breaths in. So as you're breathing in, just bringing your attention into this moment and into your body. As you breathe out, you're letting go. You're signaling to your body that this is time to relax now, to receive. And once you've had a few deep breaths, then allow your breath to find a rhythm that's comfortable without trying to shape it. Just let it go. Let your breath be the boss. Let it find its way. Take a few moments and scan through your body and make any final adjustments to your body position, your clothing, any props you might be using, so that you can be still, but without any discomfort. And then allow your body and breath to anchor your mind. Again, let your mind know that it's just for now. It's a thinking break. But if your mind is stubborn, which they can be, then just gently take your attention back to breath, to body. Once you discover that you're thinking again, just gently move it back to breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out. Feeling the weight of your body, consciously letting go and relaxing. Feeling the movement of your breath, points of contact with the surfaces beneath you. Any sensations that arise and go away. Breathing in and breathing out. Now don't move. We're going to finish Shavasana with just a few minutes of mental alternate nostril breathing. So first just begin to deepen your breath. Just get it to become deeper and longer. Find a comfortable rate. And then taking your attention to the eyebrow center, you'll exhale through the left nostril. So you're not blocking nostrils, you're just imagining the path of the breath moving from the eyebrow center through the left nostril. And then inhaling back in that same path. And then you'll exhale from the eyebrow center through the right side and inhale through the right side. And you'll continue with that pattern, just imagining the breath moving like an inverted V. Nice, even, smooth, full breath. Exhaling out, inhaling in, and switching. And just continue that. And now the next time that you exhale through the right side and then inhale through the right side, will end your practice. And then just allow to continue moving out. You can start moving your body, stretching in whatever ways feel good for you. And as you're ready, you can roll to your side. And then from there, make your way up to sit. And you can bring your hands to your heart and take a moment to bow to your own unique individual self. And then we bow to each other, to the light that connects us. Namaste.